Thousands of people gathered in downtown Rockford for a third No Kings rally Saturday, marking what organizers say is the largest rally yet. In response to President Donald Trump's administration, people across the United States and Rockford rally Saturday as part of a nationwide No Kings rally. WIFR's Miriam Niesmeyer shows how Rockford protesters and state lawmakers react to the day of action.
What do you want?
Peace and justice!
Chants rang out across downtown Rockford.
Hey, ho, ho! Donald Trump has got to go!
Advocates say the No Kings protests are focused on concerns about economic issues, immigration enforcement, voting rights, and other policies imposed by the Trump administration.
Just feel like it's the right thing to do these days with everything that's going on in the country.
The No Kings rally is set to be the largest single-day protest in U.S. history. Saturday marks the third national day of action.
Democracy matters. We have a president who terrorized America first, and now he's terrorizing the whole world. If we don't fight for it now, it will be gone.
As long as we stay united, that is what will be expressed to this administration.
Alderperson Gina Meeks says when people come together, they will make a change in the future.
I promise you, whether you are for this president or you're against this president, everything that's happening is heavy for all of us.
State Senator Steve Stottleman says the Illinois Attorney General has filed more than 50 lawsuits against the Trump administration.
Nothing is more American than standing up and speaking out when you disagree with government leaders, especially when they think they're above the law.
If President Trump truly was a king, he would not be able to protest. So it doesn't even make sense in its name.
Republican State Senator Andrew Chesney says people have the right to protest, but it's important to be informed on the issues.
They disagree with the election results. They disagree with President Trump, and they need to accept the results and be part of the solution, not continue to obstruct the process and just add to the problem.
Chesney says he supports recent actions taken by the Trump administration.
He is secured our border successfully. He is deporting the illegal immigrants from our country, and he's realigning the interests that put American jobs and American people first.
And I hope that people know that there's other things they can do in the community besides just the protests. They can make sure they're reaching out to their politicians to make their voices heard.
In Rockford, Miriam Niesmeyer, WIFR News.
Organizers say Rockford was one of more than 3,000 No Kings events held around the country, and